So there's been some discussion on the internet on how's the best way to start one of these acorns, because they don't quite have the insulation of the eggs and stuff like that. They can be a little hard to start and get temp right and all that. Maybe I'm just lucky I haven't had those issues. I don't do any weird methods or cubes or anything. All I do is I go ahead and I put a little bit of lump of charcoal down in the bowl. I will then start a chimney of some lump. That looks like that. And all I will do is, once that gets lit, I'll pour that in there and then put everything in, you know, put my diffuser in and all that, and then put the cast iron grate back on, and then I just start adjusting my air until I get the temperature where I want it, and it typically stays. Maybe I'm just lucky that I got a good acorn or something. I've been using this for about 4 years, so it is very used and very worn. And one day I'll probably get an egg, but for right now this thing works just great. I do have a pellet smoker if I'm doing big cooks with butts and other types of, you know, turkeys or whatever for Thanksgiving. I do have a big pellet smoker that I use for that, and of course I also use the Weber some too. But pellet smoker is my main smoker. This is just if I want to cook a small meal or want to do something, you know, kind of neat, you know, maybe, I don't know, pizza or something. But I don't do anything weird to start it. I just put in the lump charcoal already lit on top of some other lump, and then I adjust the air to keep it at the right temperature. One complaint about these acorns is that the temperature in the dome is completely wrong. The right here, as you can see, mine has condensation in it. It is a terrible thermometer, so I do not trust that one. I just typically will use a probe or just kind of go by feel. Like I said, everyone will tell you, oh, you got to stay this temperature or that temperature. It's got to be 250, it's got to be 225, it's got to be 275. Just cook them like you want to cook them. Sure, you can cook them too hot. You don't want to cook ribs at 350 degrees. You don't want to cook them at 200 degrees, but they're in between. There's a million different ways to cook them, and none of them are wrong as long as they come out tasting good. So if anyone's having problems starting these, try to simplify whatever you're doing to start this and see if it works for you. If it doesn't, then go back to the way you were doing it. Alright guys, these are ready to go on. The grill's about 300 degrees. I'm going to cook these kind of fast today. Normally I would cook these ribs at about 275. But it's already kind of late in the evening, and I don't want to spend 4 hours cooking ribs when they'll taste pretty much just as good at 2.5 hours. So I'm going to cook them a little bit hot. I expect the baby backs to get ready, to be ready a little bit before the spare ribs. That's okay. One thing you will notice that I did not do was I didn't put any fruit wood in with the lump. Just preference. My wife doesn't like a smoky taste, and whenever you're using these acorns, and I assume that it's very similar on the eggs, that when you put in wood chunks, when they ignite, that's what creates the smoke. It also raises the temperature a little bit. That's one reason why people have a hard time with these acorns. They put a lot of wood chunks in there. Wood burns hotter than the lump, raises their temperatures, and it's hard for them to regulate it. My wife doesn't really like the extra smoke. The lump gives it enough smoke for her, and I agree. I want to taste the barbecue. Smoke's good. Good little smoke ring's nice. Smoky flavor's fine, but sometimes you can definitely go overboard on the smoke, and that lump does just fine for a quick cook like this. So I'm gonna set and let these cook. You'll hear lots of different methods on the internet on how to do it. A lot of those methods depend on temperature. Since these are going to be cooking hot, I'm going to cook them probably for about an hour like this, just sitting there. I'll take them off and wrap them for about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes with a lot of butter, maybe a little bit of beer, and maybe some brown sugar if I have it. If I don't, I may try honey or even maple syrup, anything sweet, in with that wrap. And that's just to get a little more flavor and to steam the ribs a little more as opposed to just straight barbecue them. It gets a little bit of smoke off of them as well. After that 45 minutes, I'll come back, I'll unwrap them, I'll put them back on to finish them off, just to dry them. It basically just dries them up a little bit on the outside, and then puts a little bit more smoke back on it. There's many ways to do it. You can use tinfoil, saran wrap. You can wrap them with all kinds of different flavors, fruit juices, pineapple juice, apple juice, peach, whatever. Different types of alcohol, anything. When I say alcohol, I mean beer, something with high water content, basically for the steaming. Anything that adds flavor to it that you want to add. I've seen people wrap them in peanut butter, people wrap them in jelly, people wrap them in all kinds of stuff to give it a little more flavor. None of that's wrong. It's just different. Different tastes for different people. I would say test out what you think might taste good, and if it doesn't, oh well, it's going to be edible. It's still going to get you by to the next day. You'll just change it up next time. That's the best way to do this. So we'll be back here in about in an hour, and I'll show you what I do when I wrap them. So guys, I'm fixing to wrap these ribs up. Show you kind of what I do with them. Just get some tinfoil out, get some butter laid down. A little bit of that butter's going to go on top. And then typically I'll put it on a bed of brown sugar. I don't have any brown sugar, so I'm going to put some honey probably on top of the ribs to give it a little more sweetness. And I'm going to put beer in here to help steam the ribs, and I'll put a little more rub. So that's what it looks like. Just a little bit more beer. We'll wrap that up and then put it back on the grill. And there you have it. These will go back on for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. Just to get nice and steamed, a little more flavor in them. Get a little more tenderness. And then I'll unwrap them, put them back on for another 45 minutes, and they should be done real quick. Real quick cook. It doesn't take long to cook ribs. You can cook them at a higher temperature than what most people do. You can cook them at a lower temperature. It doesn't matter. However you want to cook them. I prefer to cook them fairly quick. If I want to do a long smoke, I'll do a butt or a shoulder or something like that. As I pulled these ribs back out of the tinfoil, and now they are back on the grill. I'll let them go for another 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I just have to see. You go out here and you can test for tenderness. You want to see the meat starting to pull back from the bone. You see that on the baby backs. Not so much on the spare ribs yet, so they're not done. Neither one of these are done. They still have some cooking to do. Once I do start seeing that and I test for tenderness and they're good, then I will go ahead and pull them off. Let them rest for a little bit to cool down and to kind of get ready to be eaten and cut up. One thing to think about is some people like fall off the bone ribs. You look at kind of these competitions and stuff, and it has to be one bite and things like that, and bite has to pull clean from the bone. But that's craziness. If you're just eating it for your family or cooking for your family to eat, whatever they like. Some people like false rib bone. Some people like sopping wet ribs. Some people like really dry ribs. Just whatever you like. There's no wrong way to cook them as long as you like them. I keep saying that because I keep seeing videos where people are trying to be absolute about how to cook a rib or how to cook barbecue. And there is just no perfect way to do it. There's only how people like it. So test things out and do it your way. Don't listen to me or anyone else. Just make good food and enjoy it with your family. Alright guys, it's getting dark and I'm getting hungry. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off and go ahead and have them start resting. They look pretty good. They're probably another 20 minutes from being as done as I like. I like for me to be able to cut through them pretty easily. If the meat starts falling off the bone, that's fine with me. However, these are, once I cut through these and get these into individual ribs, these will be more one bite ribs where the meat won't all pull off the bone. Actually more of a competition style unintentionally. But like I said, I'm hungry. They've been cooking for a little over 3 hours now, and they're done. They're at temp and they're done. You can tell both by look and by feel. Tell by how that's sagging down that meat's done. So I'm going to take them off. I'm going to wrap them in some tinfoil. Maybe put a little butter in with them. and let them set for another 20 minutes until they cool down enough to cut up and serve. And me and my wife have a pretty good little meal. I'll take another quick video when I cut them up to kind of show you what they look like. Alright, so I should have let these rest a little bit longer, but I'm hungry, and so I'm going to go ahead and cut into them. We'll see what they look like. We'll start with these. Yeah, we'll start by cutting these baby rack backs into a half rack. I think they're going to be pretty darn good. There's the baby backs. They do look good and juicy. They're definitely done. Last 3 bones on the baby back always has cartilage that you have to cut through unless you trim that off first. But you can see how the bones are typically warped. There's cartilage down in there. I'm going to leave those last 2. Now let's cut into the spare ribs. Spare ribs are typically sideways, as you can see. Let me go ahead and cut this into a half rack. Those look delicious. What I like to do on these is just cut next to the bone on one side all the way down. That way each rib has roughly the same amount of meat. You don't wind up with one rib with no meat and one rib with twice as much meat. I can tell you these are going to be delicious. I didn't put any barbecue sauce on these. These are just the rub. And that's typically the way I like them. Sometimes, if I'm not sure how they're going to turn out, I'll put a little bit of barbecue sauce on them just to give them a little extra flavor. But I don't think I'm going to have an issue with these. Looks like I might have got that one a little overdone, but it's alright. So there they are. We're fixing to eat them, and as you can see, I didn't do anything special. I didn't go crazy with the different instructions and follow all the rules that they say you have to do. I just made ribs, and that's what you should do. Just try to make some good ribs. So if anyone has any comments, just leave them below, and I'll answer whatever questions you have.